Hello everyone, thanks again for joining us on yet another edition of Ask Troy Live. Special thanks to Emily Murphy from Pass the Pistol for sharing such good tips on edible gardening. My name's John.
My name's Anthony, and today we're going to walk through the differences between tillers and cultivators and give you some tips on how to operate and maintain them. So if you have any questions, be sure to drop your questions in the chat.
Okay, so first off, everyone always asks the question, what's the difference between a tiller and a cultivator? So we both know that both platforms are used to break up ground and work in nutrients into the soil and the oxygen into the soil, and it's great for loosening compacted soil and mulch. So how do you really decide which one's right for you? Well, the tillers are good for breaking new ground and working in larger areas, and there's different tines and transmission configurations depending on your needs as you work up a tiller line offering.
Cultivators are used for breaking up smaller areas and don't go as deep into the soil as tillers. So getting into tighter places, they're easier to maneuver. They're only about 30 pounds, so they're pretty easy to pick up and move around. Today we're going to walk through some of the features of the Troy-Bilt units that you'll see in the market today. As you can see right here on the top is our 4-cycle unit, and it has what appears to be a trimmer head right on top, which it is. It is a trimmer head that's attached that powers this machine. Like I said, this one is a 4-cycle. It's super easy to assemble. Basically, you don't need any tools to assemble it. There's two nuts right here that you can unscrew and then put the handles up into position and then screw them back and tighten them down.
So pretty much when it comes out of the store, it's in a nice compact box?
Yeah, it's a nice compact box. It's very small, about that big. And then you have a clevis pin right here where you just attach the wheels to the proper tilling depth that you would like. Starting is also super easy for these. This particular one is a 10-time prime, and then you pull, and that is all you have to do. To stop, it has a nice easy switch on up here to cut the machine whenever you're ready. The only thing you want to make sure is when you are starting the machine that you have it tilted back and have the tines off of the ground. So we also have a 2-cycle machine as well, so there's some differences between the two. 2-cycle, you're going to have 40-to-1 mixed fuel and oil ratio. Also, you're going to have a little bit less power in the 2-cycle unit. It has a smaller tilling width, about 9 inches, and this one's about 12 inches. It goes a little bit deeper on this one as well.
So this is our 4-cycle unit here?
This is our 4-cycle unit, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And for these, we always recommend using True Fuel for any small engine machine. Typically, it's better suited for it. It doesn't have any ethanol in it, so it actually prevents any corrosion or gunk or carbon deposits getting built up in your engine and bogging it down or preventing it to start entirely. And it's super clean, and it enhances the performance of your machine overall.
So basically just takes the step away from mixing oil and gas together.
Also that,
Taking
yeah.
out the guesswork.
Yeah, you never have to worry about trying to do 40-to-1 mixture on your own.
So you can also get that in, you said 40 and 50-to-1?
41, 51, and they actually have it in 4-cycle as well.
Excellent.
The air filter up here is also really easy to access. You basically just unscrew a wing knob right here, and you can just pull out the air filter. It's built in right there. And it's really easily cleaned. You can just clean it with water and a little bit of detergent, let it dry, and you're ready to put it back in.
How often do you have to clean that filter, typically?
You definitely want to check it at the beginning of every season, and at the end of the season, you want to make sure it's clean as well. These are also super easy to transfer. As we said earlier, that the assembly is super easy, so all you would do is just loosen these up, pull the handles down, and it's very compact, and you can pick it up and move it wherever you need to.
It really looks like you can just get that in and out of wherever you need to, into the back of a car, or what have you, as opposed to maybe something more full-size that would be more of a burden.
Yeah, 20, 30 pounds, not bad at all.
Yeah, that's very, very light.
So personally, I've been considering adding a larger plot, like a garden plot in my backyard. What things do you think I should be considering when I'm looking for a
Well,
bigger
definitely,
machine?
I think definitely you got to look at, number one, what kind of soil are you working with? And especially what kind of tines do you have? Like I see just to go back to the cultivator for a second, I see you have a nice set of tines on there. How does that differ from the 2-cycle version? Is there an adjustable tilling width on the cultivators?
So you can, as you can see down here, there's actually pins that hold these tines in. You would basically just remove the clevis pin here, and you can actually remove whole tines out of it or move them in closer.
So just based on your needs and what type of garden that you have?
Yes.
Okay. So where wouldn't I use a cultivator at?
You wouldn't want to use them in a large field. You wouldn't want to use it when you're just trying to break new ground or anything like that. You want to have something that's soft, medium soil, smaller areas in general, like backyard garden plots or around trees or anything like that.
Like the one you said you were going to put in.
Yeah.
Garden, right? So what are you considering putting in?
A larger garden.
Okay, right. So I think if you're looking at those things that you have to consider, the soil type that you have, and then you have to figure out, am I breaking new ground? Am I going to be putting in a flower bed? Is it going to be an actual garden? Do I have tight spots that I have to consider? Am I trying to protect plants that are in line of what I'm tilling or cultivating? So all those things have to be figured into your decision-making process. But so there, I mean, there's basically a couple different types of soil that you can talk about?
Yeah, there's silt and clay, which are easily compacted. There's a northern type of soil. Both are good for vegetable gardening, but don't drain too quickly, so you want to consider adding compost to aerate and loosen it. It allows more drainage, prevents your plants from drowning and from the roots from rotting. There's also sandy soil, which is made up of at least 50% sand, with the remaining parts of like clay and silt. This soil also has a lot of rocks in it, makes it difficult to till, can really wear down the machine faster. The soil drains quickly, so you want to consider adding compost to that as well to help retain water for your plants. This is more of a warmer weather type soil than you find in the southwest area.
Okay.
My yard is pretty hard soil.
Okay, so if you have a hard soil in your backyard, you're going to want to be considering more of a rear tine unit. I think because it's got the weight distribution a little bit heavier. It'll sink you down into when you're actually in the tilling process. It helps just by the weight alone to take the fatigue away from you. I mean, you could do almost the same job with a front tine tiller, like a younger guy like you, you'll get a nice workout using a front tine tiller. It's gonna knock you around a little bit. It'll pull you as the tines hit the ground, but you also have depth stakes that can prevent that from happening, but you have to adjust based on your job. But when you consider what a rear tine unit would do for a guy like me, an older guy, doesn't want to fight it as much, you can just basically just engage these tines and just walk along with this thing, and you have different types of models that have forward rotating, counter rotating, dual direction tillers, and that we'll get into here in a little bit. But you really have to do your homework to see what's in the market. Go onto the website. So what are they marketing? What are the features they're trying to get across to the consumer? And that's when you find out, which is going to be the best unit for you. So just on that note, you should check out on our YouTube channel, our Troy-Bilt channel, how we're built videos to get an education on all the engineering that goes into the makings of these quality tillers and other ones in the market as well, because they all have similar features. But I think the biggest thing that Troy-Bilt hangs our hat on is the lifetime warranty on all models with cast iron gear casings and bronze gears and the 1-inch steel tine shaft. So it's a very, very unique selling feature. And then we also have videos on our patented Bolo tines that we use on our rear tine units that are individually tested tines. They go through a 1,000 PSI bend test. They have coined edges, and each curve on the tine has its own specific use for when you're in the tilling motion. So, and then also there's a rock pile test that we put these tillers through, that you're doing at least a 30-hour rock pile test to make sure that there's no cracks in the tines, the transmissions are solid, and then you had no problems with the unit. So rigorous testing that goes on. And another great safety feature that's been added this past year across the industry is a safety shutoff switch for units that have rear tine and power reverse capability. So if you're tilling along and you're backing up and you're in reverse and you don't see what's behind you and you kind of get backed up against a fence or a garage, you can quickly just hit the safety kill switch and it'll shut the unit off completely, and then you're back to doing what you have to do in the garden. But just a nice unique feature that is a new ANSI standard that we're adhering to keep the consumer safe.
Good to hear. What other types of tillers are there to choose from in the market?
So when you set tillers aside from cultivators, basically you have 4 different types of tillers that are out there. You have a forward rotating front tine unit, you have a counter rotating rear tine unit, and you have a forward rotating rear tine unit, and then you have a dual direction unit as we see here. So when you talk about the features that are on these, they vary a little bit throughout the industry, but basically what you'll see here on the front tine unit again is to reiterate that this is a forward rotating tine system, so this is going to pull you into the area that you have to almost put 1 foot forward and try to control it. As you get into the soil more, it gets easier to use But definitely a very effective tool. For example, I cleared out a pretty big area, let's say the size of the batter's box area at home plate in a baseball field, just to plant some new grass. That's a very effective use for a front tine tiller. If you're looking to get in some larger areas, or you have, let's say, the size of the infield of a baseball field to till, then you're going to get into a rear tine unit, and it also depends on how rocky the soil is, based on if you want to get a counter rotating or a forward rotating. So just to walk through a couple features of the front tine unit. So you just have your air filter that you'll do some routine maintenance on. These are 4-cycle units typically when you get to this size of an engine. This is a 208 cc horizontal shafted engine that has different compartments for oil and gas. And then you just have your throttles on the side. You have some transport wheels. And then you also have a depth stake to kind of limit how much you're being pulled when using a front tine unit. And then Anthony, if you want to just pull this back a little bit, we can show the customers here that there's options just like you had on your cultivator to go to a shorter tilling width. Same thing on the full tine units, full size units. You can get 13 inches, you can go 22 or 24 inches, and all you do is simply remove these pins, slide the tines off, put the pin back in place, and you're back in business depending on your needs of the particular area that you're tilling. So again, it's a very compact unit. It's easy to transport. This handle folds down. It's much heavier than a cultivator, so you got to be sure that you're investing in something that you're going to use probably almost every season for one reason or another, whether it's in your garden, whether it's planting new grass, or what have you. So very nice units that are in the market. And we talked about the other rear tine units that we had out there, but this is a very unique tiller here in a dual direction, and there's several brands in the market that do produce this particular type of tiller. And the unique feature about this is that you can use this tiller to till in forward tines and in counter rotating tines. So it can really it's very versatile when you're in the middle of your job. When I first started using these, I had to use one of these for about 3.5 hours, and it doesn't take long to realize the benefit of having this type of a unit. So you're basically controlling everything from this user position right here to go into the forward position, the reverse position, wheels forward, there's a neutral position, and again, power reverse to get you out of any tight areas. And then again, if you ever have to use it, you got your safety switch right here. But again, same type of maintenance things that you have to, on the full-size tiller, rear tines, is just like the front tines, you have the same filters to replace and wash out. Again, different compartments for gas and oil. Another 208 cc engines, and as you move through the Troy-Bilt lineup, we get into some higher displacement Briggs & Stratton engines, and then we have a Rolls-Royce called the Big Red that we know Martha Stewart herself is using on her new TV show, and she loves it. So basically it's the Rolls-Royce of all of our tillers. It has 4 forward speeds and 2 reverse speeds. It's got electric start. So it's really the top of the line unit for someone who's really doing the big tilling jobs out there. And again, you got some agricultural tires on here. You don't have plastic wheels. You have rubber tires with really thick tread, so you're not going to get stuck inside any mud pits or whatever develops as you're tilling. So again, there's not a gear really that you won't use in here if you're doing a really tough job to get you out of the areas that you're in. You have everything that you need at your fingertips, and again, a very versatile unit.
Would you say that these, what if I have to move these to another area or anything? Is they pretty easy to transport? Or?
So that's a good question, actually. So, obviously you can't put them into the back of a car like you would, so you probably need some kind of a trailer. But one of the key things we see with people, consumers online, asking if I'm trying to move my tiller from one place to another, like how do I easily, because it doesn't seem like I can push it. Well, what's happening most likely, and this goes for brands across the market, is that there is a clevis pin that is holding the wheel to the shaft, and what you would have to do is pull that pin out, and then you'd have to slide the wheel out a little bit and then put the clevis pin back in, and that allows you to freewheel the unit however you need to about your yard. But that's a common issue that we see with people asking, how come I can't move this tiller? Because when it comes out of the crate and is being ready to use right out of the factory, it's in that position where it allows you to start tilling right away. So if you have any transportation that you're wanting to do, that's a little different on this unit because we have a neutral setting, but on other units you won't have neutral. So you're going to have to perform that step of taking out that pin, moving those wheels in, putting the pin back in, and then easily transporting it around.
It looks like we actually have a question here. Please
Yes.
tell us about proper adjusting of the stake on the front tine of the Troy-Bilt Colt.
Okay, so basically what you have here is your depth stake right here. So again, you pull out the clevis pin here, and then this bolt pulls out, this pin pulls out, and then you can adjust this just basically by lining up the holes to whatever height you want. So obviously the deeper that you go, the more the unit is going to try to dig itself into the ground and become a little bit more restrictive to how it wants to move forward. So then you know you're getting a good deep down till.
Thank you for that question.
Thank you for the question.
So, right about now we'll talk about maintenance for a little bit here. So, on the cultivator at least, you're going to want to make sure that you drain the oil and the gas completely by the end of the season and everything. There's a nice oil cap at the top here. And as far as fuel goes, you can actually tip it over and have the gas run from the machine into a pan or however you'd like to contain it. And then you want to let the machine run completely dry until it stalls out completely, so there's nothing left in the carburetor. Again, using true fuel makes everything way better for your machine in the long run of having it stored away for the winter. Again, the air filter you want to check once a year on the cultivator at least. I'd say on the tillers you probably want to check it. I'd say probably like every 3-4 times that you're running it, because you might be in a dustier area. You might just be running into way more debris. As far as everything else, the tines are something that's pretty good to pay attention to. They do start to get more narrow and pointy as they wear down. These ones are pretty easy to tell as well. Those are a little bit more rounded on the end, and I don't know if we can lift this up and see. Those are a little more squared off, but those will start to point out and start to get really worn down on the end to where they're pointy and narrow. So you just want to pay attention to those, and then after every single time that you till, it's just good to clean out the under shield of the tine shield for the tines. Make sure everything's nice and crisp under there.
Great.
Yeah.
So does this answer your question about which tiller you think you'd choose out of the ones that we talked about?
Yeah, I think I would definitely, having the harder soil, and I'd want to have like a bigger, I don't want to get beat up. I may be a younger guy, but I don't think I want to get beat up and torn around by a colt. So I think I would, go for the Mustang. And it's nice you have the option of going forward or reverse tine tilling for it. So. And
some of the nice features too, like you have on the rear tine tillers, you have the tine shields to protect the user from getting hit with rocks or debris as it flies up. You have your side shields to prevent any plants or flowers that are to the side, so you're not just pelting those with dirt as well. And also, just one thing we always need to point out is making sure that everyone's always using their safety glasses and making sure you have long pants on and suitable shoes for the job, because the last thing you want to do is get injured unnecessarily when you're trying to build your brand new garden. So I think that any of these rear tine units that you'll find are going to do the suitable job for the type of garden you're trying to put in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I have never personally used a cultivator myself. I've always stuck with the tiller or a front tine unit because it does what I need it to do, but just seeing it here, I think it would be nice to refresh your garden up from the long winter we've had with all the snow compacting down all the mulch. So definitely would like to maybe consider using one of those a little bit more in my own yard.
Yeah, and honestly, cultivators, kind of like whenever you have a lawnmower, a lot of people also have trimmers to get the edges, to get little tight angles or anything like that they need to work in. Some people have a tiller and they have a cultivator for that same exact purpose. You want to get in there, you want to be able to maneuver around a little bit and just have an easier time. Maybe get around some trees or a small, like I said, I have a small garden plot myself, so it's just much simpler to get through, just as a trimmer would be for a lawnmower.
And it's interesting too, just working in the office and seeing some of the replies from customers around the world, not just in the United States, but these tillers are used worldwide in different environments and in different situations, and obviously different types of soil all over the world. So great feedback, from everyone we've heard from. Definitely they're liking their Troy-Bilt units, especially again, Martha Stewart, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
You said that one has a lifetime warranty on the transmission?
Yeah, so the rear tine units, again, if it's there's two different types of drive systems. You have a chain drive transmission and you have a bronze gear driven transmission. So both these units here are the chain drive transmissions. The Troy-Bilt units that carry the lifetime warranty are the rear tine units that have the cast iron gear casing and the bronze gear. So there's 4 other models in our lineup that carry the lifetime warranty, which always, again, is very nice to have.
Are there any other options maybe for different type of tines that you can use?
Yes, that's a good point too. So there are different heavier duty tines that you can use to install onto your tiller if you live in a certain area where you have sandier soils, where the tines wear down a little bit more, where you're getting more heavier use. There's aftermarket tine packages available that you can install on here that don't typically come on a production unit.
Okay.
So yeah.
That's great to hear.
So let's see if we have any more questions coming through. I don't see anything coming through at the time. I know that we're going to be handing this off to Eric at Garden Fork shortly. He's going to be actually using these two, this tiller and this cultivator that you see here in his yard. And Eric's been a good advocate for Ask Troy, and he's got some interesting garden tips for you, especially some interesting ones to show you how to keep certain insects out of your garden and things like that. But we are definitely looking forward to see what he has to offer us today. We do see a question coming in right now. So it says, are tillers and cultivators just for edible gardens? I'd say no. I mean, the tillers and cultivators can be used anywhere that you need to turn over any soil, or mulch or what have you, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it can be used for anything.
yeah, just got to be careful, again, making sure you're wearing all your protective equipment.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody can find a unit that's good for them within this Troy-Bilt lineup, and just make sure you're doing your homework and asking the right questions and seeing what's marketed out there.
Looks like we have another question here. Do you recommend running all the gas out of the Colt when done tilling each day, or is draining out of the carb easy and better? So I wouldn't say every day you have to drain the gas completely out of the unit. And so say you're using gas that's from like a gas station or anything that has 10% ethanol and like that. You don't want to let it sit in. This goes for these units, this goes for just any unit in general that's a small engine. You typically don't want to let it sit in your machine for longer than 30 days without any use, or just in general, because the ethanol will break down, it will separate, and it'll leave like gunk and carbon deposits in your machine and your carburetor and then in your fuel lines, and it'll end up breaking it down, and then your machine won't start. So if you ever run into the problem of your machine just not starting for some reason after you've just let it sit for a while and there was fuel in it, there may be a little bit of buildup in there that you might need to either clean out, or you could try there's carb cleaners out there at the store that you can find at any hardware store. That's why we recommend using True Fuel. Again, True Fuel, it doesn't have any of that, it doesn't have the ethanol in there that will break down and cause that carbon deposit and the gunkiness in order for it to clog up your system.
Yeah, I use nothing but True Fuel.
But as far as doing it every day, I wouldn't say you need to do it every day. I would say if you have the fuel sitting around in your machine for a month, then you would probably want to do so.
Okay, so another question coming in. I think we might have already touched on it. Recommendations on maintenance tips when you start and at the end of the season. So we talked about clearing the gas out of it.
Yes, definitely want to make sure all the fuel is out of there at the end of every season. Oil as well. You always want to make sure that your air filters are cleaned out, especially on tillers and cultivators, because again, you're working in messier atmosphere and kicking up a lot of dust and everything, so you want to make sure that those are nice and clean. And again, those are super simple to clean. All you have to do is just wash it off with some water and some detergent, and it's very simple. Again, the tines you want to check, you always want to check them at the start of the season and about after like every 30 hours of use. You want to take a look at them, make sure they're okay. And again, whenever you're washing under the tine shield, you never want to pressure wash it, first of all. But when you do wash under the tine shield, you just want to make sure you get under there and clean everything, but you want to make sure you towel dry the tines, and maybe even put a little bit of light oil on the tines just so it prevents it from rusting or eroding or anything of that nature.
And these tine shields just simply flip right up. They pretty much just go along the land as you do, just to keep everything off of you. So
yeah,
really easy job. It's kind of like when you rinse off your lawnmower at the end of at the end of each use too, right? Yeah. Some people do, some people don't. It's always a good idea to do so. Another thing about these full-size units, they look pretty bulky and big, but as you can see, they're really easy to move around and to get from area to area. So don't be intimidated by the size of these, because once you get them moving, they pretty much go by themselves. Then you just have to make sure that you're selecting the right gear and the right rotation for what you're trying to accomplish. Same thing with the rear tine units. Basically, you just have these as transport wheels, but they do kind of play a part when you're tilling, because that's your only real leverage, is to use your weight moving forward and then kind of maneuver the wheels to get to the spot you're trying to get. So again, they look intimidating, but they really aren't. And just got to get behind one and maybe test one out, see if you like it, and just try to make sure that you pick out the one that's right for your needs.
Looks like we have another question here. Does your cultivator come with a straight blade to edge a lawn? Unfortunately not. We do have edgers as well, but this isn't going to be very suitable for edging a lawn of any nature.
Yeah, to your point, we do have full-size edgers.
We do have full-size edgers that will accommodate that request, but yeah, unfortunately, with the cultivator, it's not able to adapt to that. And I thought I did see a question as well about, are there any parts that you might need to change on the tiller or cultivators, like seasonally? Like I said, definitely the tines, you want to just make sure to check them. You can change them individually. You can buy a full set of them. It's, however you need to have it. These do not have bolts. Do they have bolts on them?
Oh, yes, these are individual bolo tines, right? These will just have the stamped steel on the front.
Yeah.
So basically, these are all one piece. Each stamped tine has 4 blades on it, but the bolo tines are individual and they bolt to the shafts individually. And again, the advantages of the bolo tines are huge.
Yeah, I mean, aside from that, really, you just have filters to change. There's really not a whole lot that you should ever really have to change out on these, to be honest. Yeah.
So pretty easy to pick that. I mean, it looks like a nice comfort handle on the front.
Yeah.
Move around, very light. Okay. Yeah,
it's not bad at all.
Not
Like
much
I said,
to do.
it's very convenient to move around and everything. And with all of these, whenever you're first engaging the tines, again, you want to make sure that this is off the ground and not touching, because if you start it up and engage the tines while it's already on the ground, you're just going to get pulled away really fast.
Right. Make sure you're looking at your user's manuals when you go to purchase one of these, because again, even on this unit here, you do not want these tines engaged when you're getting ready to put this into gear, because it'll just take off on you. So make sure you're reading all the directions, because it is a bigger piece of equipment, even though it is easy to move around, but you got to be careful.
So when do you think you might want to use the forward rotating over the reverse rotating for these?
I think that when you're in a bigger area and you have unpredictable soil, you use it a lot to get out with you get stuck in rocks. You can go forward, you can go backward. It's going to finally till every piece of soil with this particular unit. It's almost down to powder. It does such a good job, and it goes down to 7 inches in depth. Again, you got the big ag wheels on it, so it's a superior control. You got your front balancing weight on front. So again, a very versatile unit. If you see these in the market, I'd be definitely checking out this for its practicality of use.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty good. You said it's pretty comfortable. Can you just till with one hand, maybe?
Oh, well, yes, you could. I mean, if you don't want to walk through, say it's wet outside and you're still tilling because you have to get it done and it's raining and you don't want to get gunk all over your boots, you can almost just engage this and stand to the side and walk alongside of it, so you're not going through the hill that is created by the tilling action itself. Which is another interesting point, because when you till with the rear tine tiller, it kind of gives you a mound in the middle as you move away from it, which is perfect, because when you put your seeding in there, that's what you want to have, is that nice mound for everything to grow and be able to go down into the soil with its roots to get maximum hold. So that's another good thing about the rear tine units as well. You won't get that as much on the front tine. This is more about ground breaking and kind of moving around and going with it. So you're going to get your workout with the front tine unit for sure. So I think that about wraps up our time in the studio. Again, we have Eric from Garden Fork, who's going to demonstrate these units actually in the field. So again, thank you for joining Troy Live. Look forward to seeing you next time, and enjoy your time in your yard.
Thank you, guys.